Well, tonight on the podcast, ladies and gentlemen, our Vice President, Kamala Harris, is on MSNBC, and she was doing an interview on Morning Joe. Well, our Vice President, she was asked a question about Donald Trump and what he said about black people. But I want you to check out this clip, but then I have some questions as well.
Trump says he connects with black voters now, especially because of his felony conviction.
He got indicted a second time and a third time and a fourth time. And a lot of people said that that's why the black people like me, because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against.
He also says that he's not a racist because he has a lot of black friends. Yeah. Your thoughts?
Well, on the first point, as connected to the second point, it's insulting.
Yeah.
It's insulting for a number of reasons, including he has reduced a whole population of people down to a sum total of what is in his mind who they are. And he's wrong. And he's wrong.
All right. So Kamala says that when Donald Trump tried to say that, hey, you know, since I got these charges and all of that, you know, I can relate to black people. Now, I support Kamala on this one 100%. What Trump said was very dumb. It was very ignorant. And that does not relate to me as a black man. Not at all. Does it relate to some people? Sure. But not all black people in America. So I'll completely agree with Kamala on that what Trump said was wrong. It was ignorant. And it was offensive. We all agree there. But places like MSNBC only talk about offense to black people when it comes to Trump. They only talk about racism if they can put it on the Republicans, as you clearly see. Mika Brzezinski sit up here and talking about Trump and racism and things like that. They don't talk about the things that the Biden administration has done to black people. So let me say, okay, so Trump said what he said. Now, are you more offended with Trump saying what he said? Or are you more offended by this?
So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No.
Okay. So our vice president said that she's not going to sit there and only say she's going to do something for black people. I'm more offended by that than what Trump said. Why I'm more offended by that? Because you're telling me you're not going to do nothing for black Americans whatsoever when you be in a position of power. And she has stuck to that. Her and Biden stuck to that. To me, that's more offensive to me. That's offensive to my children. That's offensive to my aunties, everybody in my family. It's offensive. Let's get to something else that's offensive.
You have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump and you ain't black.
That's also offensive. So you mean to tell me that I got to vote for you as Joe Biden or I'm not black? Last time I checked, my birth certificate said I'm black. I've been living this black skin my whole doggone life. Why does who I choose to vote for has predicated my blackness? But see, that was offensive, completely offensive, because it's saying that I own black people politically. And if you don't vote for me, you're not black. So you vote for Trump, you're not black no more, obviously, according to what they said. And that was extremely offensive to me, way more than what Trump just said to me, because y'all doing policies to actually hurt black Americans. That's offensive. What about this? When black Americans came out to vote in the election, did black Americans get a hate crime bill? This video is more offensive to me than what Donald Trump said. Because black Americans for 400 plus years have been saying we need an anti-black hate crime bill. We need protections. And when people just start putting hands on a couple of Asians during the pandemic, they give them a whole hate crime bill. But black Americans who have suffered every kind of terrorism in the United States of America, we don't get a hate crime bill, even though we did not see the Asian community in long lines voting for Biden in the election. We saw black Americans voting for Biden. We had Boule Martin out there crying because he saw how many black Americans was in the line and the Democrats had promised him some money if you could deliver the black vote. That's why he was crying at the time. But black Americans voted, and the Asian community benefited. This is offensive to black Americans way more than what Donald Trump had to say. And because of the policies of Joe Biden and the Democrats having an open border policy, he brought in not only migrants, but he brought in migrants that was hostile to black Americans. Now, do you remember this footage that we covered last night out of Chicago? This is also something that's very offensive that Joe Biden and Kamala have created.
More money for you. You working. No more money for you. Bye-bye. Go back across the No more money for you. No more money for you. It's lazy. You lazy. No more money for you.
That video was offensive to black Americans. Why? Because Joe Biden created that climate where migrants can come over. They get very uppity. They get attitudes. They feel entitled because Joe Biden has prioritized migrants over the American people. That's more offensive to me as a black American and to my black American community than what Trump had to say. Because, see, Trump run off of his mouth. That doesn't affect me on a policy. What the Biden administration and Kamala has been doing has affected black Americans in the area of policy, have been taking resources away from black America, have taken protection away from black America. The anti-Asian hate crime bill supposed to be the anti-black hate crime bill. See, they do policies that's offensive to black America. I don't care what Trump say. He can say whatever he want to say as long as he's not putting no policy against my community. It's just bottom line. So how could you sit up here and talk about what's so offensive? You know what I'm saying? But you're not talking about how offensive it is, how y'all done policies all these years that hurt and harm black Americans. And then what's also offensive, you do nothing for black Americans. You do for everybody else. Then you want to circle back around right before election time. Black America, you have to help us save democracy. No, we don't have to help save nothing because that democracy haven't benefited us. It hasn't. If you want to show us democracy work, we need our reparations in the form of cash payments. We need our anti-black hate crime bill. We need the same things that Native Americans get, tax-free status. We need that. We need our land allotments and everything else that they get. Whatever they get, that's what we need to get. Right there. Because we suffered enough in this country for it. And continuing to suffer in this country. So that's offensive. That you come in our face at election time, come in our churches, sitting in front of black men, trying to talk to black women, all this stuff you're doing, trying to convince black people to come out there and vote for you when you have been offensive the whole 4 years you've been in. And as I said many times before, go reach out to the people that you have prioritized. Go reach out to the LGBT. Go reach out to all those white women that you're prioritizing. Go reach out to the migrants. Go reach out to the Ukrainians overseas. Go do all that. Reach out to them. The reason why I say reach out to them because that's what you've been prioritizing. You should not prioritizing black Americans. So yes, your policies have been more offensive to me than what Trump said any other day of the week. Sorry, it's more offensive to me. And Trump haven't did any policies that I can say, man, he really hurt black America by doing this particular policy. He ain't doing that at all. And y'all never can say he did that. So let's leave the offense talk just alone, right? You still not saying what you're going to do for black people. But I'm proud of black Americans because y'all pressing them. Every time they come in your face, say, hey, what you doing for black people? And if they say, well, we doing this for minorities. I don't know what minority is. What's that? What you doing for black people? Well, you know, people of color. What is people of color? I don't know what that is. What you doing for black people? Well, underserved communities. What's an underserved community? I don't know what that is. What you doing for black people? You always say that. What are you doing for black people? Well, you know, discrimination. We doing it for people that get discriminated against. I don't know who those people are. What are you doing for black people? That's where it has to go. Black people. Well, we're doing something for black people, LGBT. I don't know nothing about that. I'm talking about black people. What are you doing for black people? And if you're doing something for black people that's LGBT, fine. That's no problem. They black like me. What are you doing for black people? It's just that simple. When you cut off the minority talk, the people of color, the underserved communities, all of these little terms they use, urban communities. What's urban? I don't know what urban is. What are you doing for black people? Every word they use and not say you, cut them off. Well, we can't just do something for black people. Well, you can't get my vote then. That's just bottom line. But it's more to it than that. We got to play the game. I'm not here to play no game with you. I'm not a child. I'm grown. What you going to do for black people? If you're not going to do nothing for black people, leave me alone. Don't waste my time. But what about if Trump get in there? What about him? He was in there before. I'm here talking to you. That means I survived Trump, right? And I survived another 4 years of Trump. So what? If Trump get in there? It don't bother me. I'm good. You can't throw Trump in my face. Project 2025. I don't care about that. We've been living Project 1865. We've been going through it ever since after slavery too. How about that? And during slavery, we've been going through it. We've been going through it. Scared about nobody. Project 2025. Who cares about that? So what? That just get on my nerves. I see black people. Phil, you don't know what they're gonna do. Project 2025, Phil. Like, aren't you a descendant of a slave? You dealt with the worst of the worst. The worst of the worst. Unless they're going back to that, what they were doing during chattel slavery, which they're not. Then what are you scared of? And even if they tried that mess, I'm like, look, it ain't happening here. I'll fight to the death before I ever let them do that. Can't stand all these scary black people. Let the Democrats just convince you. You don't want that to happen. Like, man, I don't care what these people do. What you doing for black people? That's it. That's the conversation. What are you doing for black people? Because I'm offended at all the things you did during your administration. So you gonna come in my face, you can't use no other community. What are you doing for black people? Period. And if you can't do nothing for black people, you don't have to. That's no problem. That's no problem. Scurry on. Because I got a nice couch to sit on. I got some popcorn I need to order for that night. Matter of fact, I am going to order popcorn for that day. I'm going to order one of my favorite popcorns out of Chicago. And I'm going to make sure I got I'm going to show y'all if you know how you sit down and chill your nerves, eating your popcorn, watching results. Know what I'm saying? You ain't listen. Don't let these people. You don't owe them nothing, because they ain't done nothing for you as a community. That's why you owe them nothing. So please, if you want to talk about who offends us, it's the policies that has harmed Black America. That what offends us, not something stupid that Trump said.